Today's Anxiety Slayer podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Are stress and anxiety interfering with your happiness? Have you been considering seeing a therapist, but you're not sure where to start? BetterHelp will assess your counseling needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist so you can start getting the support you need online in under 24 hours. Special offer for Anxiety Slayer listeners. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/slayer. That's betterhelp.com/slayer. Welcome back to the Anxiety Slayer podcast. I'm Shan Vanderleek, here with my wonderful friend and co-host, Ananga Sivir. And today we're responding to a listener question that we found in our inbox about eating and anxiety, and specifically, why does eating help my anxiety? Welcome back, Ananga.
Hey, Shan.
It's good to be with you again for another episode. Let's jump right in and talk about nutrition and eating based on what Ayurveda has to say.
When I hear a question like this, it makes me smile because my mind goes straight to Ayurveda's teachings on our different relationships and experiences with food according to our mind or body type. According to Ayurveda, which is India's ancient science of life, our interest in food, the way we eat it, and its effect on how we feel after eating all varies according to our dosha or body type.
For some, eating can be a way to temporarily silence or numb out uncomfortable emotions. And for others, it gives a sense of feeling full, nourished, and grounded that helps maintain balance. And depending on the dosha that is most prevalent in your body, in your life, these relationships are going to be a little bit different when you look at the relationship with eating. And pitta is the one that cracks me up because, oh man, I get so irritable when I'm hungry, and it just reinforces that I'm absolutely pitta. And the first thing my husband will say is, have you eaten? Do you need to eat?
Right.
If I get a little cranky, a little irritable. And thankfully, that doesn't happen very often. And I also need plenty of hydration, which is part of the doshas. But not that this is all about me. So we'll just go back to the relationship with eating. And if your constitution is pitta, chances are you get a little bit irritable when you're hungry. Or as you like to say, Ananga, hangry.
Yeah.
And it's really important that you have regular meals and plenty of hydration. And I mean plenty of hydration.
Yeah.
I drink 100 ounces of water a day.
Yeah, pitta has a very fast metabolism. So pitta, as we've described before, it's the fiery constitution, fire and water constitution. So pitta burns their food quickly and efficiently, and then they need more. They need regular meal times. But because the pitta mind type is very high achieving, focused mind type, sometimes they might be busy or trying to finish a task very efficiently, and then they overrun their meal time and they're hungry or hangry. Yeah. Hungry and angry mixed together because they need to eat. And sometimes you'll be in like a family situation and somebody starts acting out a bit, or they suddenly become irritable, and it changes quite quickly and they may not be aware of it. And then another family member will say, he needs to eat or she needs to eat. And that's that pitta type, very fast metabolism. They need regular meals and, as you said, plenty of hydration.
And then there's vata, who may not even notice that they're hungry. And it's quite easy to skip meals. And when I think about this dosha, I think about my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
It might not even occur to her to eat all day long. And then all of a sudden, she'll think, oh, maybe I should probably have something to eat.
Yeah, because Vata's so creative and creatively immersed often. Even if, we're not necessarily an artist or a musician, the Vata mind is creative, poetic, expressive, and it can be away with the fairies, away in its own world. And eating is not high on the agenda. Vata can be very in their beautiful creative head. Or Vata can feel anxious and nauseous and lose their appetite.
Quite easily.
Yeah.
A number of our listeners feel like it's tough for them to have anything to eat in the morning because of that, where they're feeling just a little bit nauseous and not ready to take anything in. And even sometimes water is tough in the morning. And if that sounds like you, that's okay. Let your body do what it needs to do, and don't worry about forcing yourself.
Yeah.
If you're feeling that way.
Yeah, we're going to have some more information on that later on in this episode.
And then, of course, there's Kapha. And Kapha is most inclined to eat and may also eat for comfort, very much about comfort foods. And you think of the grandmother that is constantly in the kitchen cooking and inviting you to eat, whether you're hungry or not.
Yeah.
That's what I think of.
Yeah, Kapha is very food-focused, very loving dosha in balance. So in balance, Kapha will cook and serve. They will cook for you and they will bring it to you. Eat, and they derive satisfaction from seeing you eat what they've cooked with love. When Kapha's out of balance, they're going to eat. They sometimes feel a sense of emptiness that they need to fill with comfort food. So, but in balance, Kapha likes to serve, very loving, very steady, very, very giving. And out of balance, it goes a little bit the other way, or a lot the other way, depending on how out of balance we are, as do all the doshas. All the doshas have their line where they're in balance and can slide out of balance to a greater or lesser degree. So understanding these things gives us an insight into what's happening.
And you often hear us talk about the Vata dosha the most, because this is the body type that's most prone to anxiety. And so Vata really benefits from nourishing meals that will bring grounding and balance to that body type.
Yeah, and that's the clue really with this question. Why does eating help me calm my anxiety? Pitta, eating satisfies their high metabolic energy and then wanting to be achieving and doing. So that's not the one. Kapha is inclined to eat for comfort, but that's not really helping calm anxiety. It gives a temporary satisfaction, and then they might be quite upset with themselves afterwards. But Vata, with their tendency to skip meals and their airy, ethereal nature, they need that ballast, they need that grounding and warmth from food. So that's the answer. Why does eating help calm my anxiety? Because anxiety tends to be hand in hand with Vata, and nourishment helps. It helps bring groundedness and satisfaction and stability to the body. So that's the one. So that's what we'll be talking about.
And some of the signs and symptoms of increased Vata include nervousness and anxiety. You might have dry or chapped skin. You might have issues with constipation, aversion to cold and wind. Insomnia might be an issue, or your sleep might easily be interrupted. You might feel spaced out, scattered, disassociated. And of course, runaway thoughts and overthinking are all a part of being out of balance if you have the Vata constitution. And so, as you can imagine, we want to make sure that we're taking good care of ourselves and making time for meals and making good choices with the food groups that we choose so that you can feel better.
Yeah. When we feel empty, it provokes Vata. Vata lives in the spaces in the body. So that's why we say in the cold autumn or winter months, Vata lives in the ears, among other spaces in the body. So we recommend put oil in your ears, cover your ears, protect your ears. So the challenge for Vata types is that they really benefit from that stability and groundedness. And I really do think of it as ballast.
Mm-hmm.
Like a hot air balloon that's floating away, and you get those sandbags in there and it's tethered down. So Vata needs that ballast, that weight. And they're the most erratic eaters by nature. They often skip meals, or they'll go for quick snacks like potato chips or an apple. But those are the snacks that don't serve them well because they're light and airy. If you put an apple in water, it floats. It's an airy fruit. So if you're of an airy constitution, you need juicy, heavy fruits that wouldn't float fruits that are denser. So all of our doshic types, when out of balance, tend to draw us to the things we don't need. And the mind says, how can it not be good for me when I like it so much? Which is a further sign of imbalance, which is very challenging. So Vata will go for crackers, potato chips, light things, insubstantial things. Pitta will go for spicy, fiery foods. Pitta does not need spice. Kapha, that needs more spice to digest, they're going to go for the heavy donuts, bread, wheat, comfort foods that are actually better suited to Vata. Not so much the donuts, but the heavier, if you think of wholesome bread with olive oil, that's for Vata. But Kapha's going to want it.
Right. Well, as a combination Kapha, Pitta woman, I dance in between those two.
Right.
And not so much the sweets, and even learning about the spicy stuff, because that was always my go-to. And I still love it very much. I've just learned how to invite more cooling foods into my diet. And when we come back from the break, we'll talk about that it's not just eating that helps calm your anxiety. It's the kind of food you eat and the nutritious food that you choose based on your body type.
Today's Anxiety Slayer podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Are stress and anxiety interfering with your happiness and preventing you from living your best life? There have been a few times in my life where I've needed some extra support and wish I had an option for online support. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. To be clear, BetterHelp is not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It is professional counseling done securely online, and their service is available for clients worldwide. You get timely and thoughtful responses, plus you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions so you don't have to leave your home. It's more affordable than traditional in-person counseling, and financial aid is available. You can start living a happier life today. Special offer for Anxiety Slayer listeners. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/slayer. That's betterhelp.com/slayer.
Before the break, we were talking about the Vata dosha and the signs and symptoms of increased Vata, as well as some of the food choices that Vata people will make, like potato chips and apples, when really a healthy meal, a warm, healthy meal, is something that's going to be more important, something that's heavier in their system. What more can you share with us about that, Ananga?
Well, when the Vata type eats a warm, healthy meal, they feel nourished and grounded, and it brings into balance that airy, ethereal nature of Vata that can cause anxiety. So that's why you have that sense of, I feel better after eating. My anxiety feels calmed after eating. So for the Vata body type, or when we're experiencing high anxiety, we need to focus on eating for nourishment when we eat. So not just, grabbing a snack or eating something, anything. It needs a little bit of forward planning sometimes. If we're busy in the day, then at least we can get breakfast and dinner right and make sure that that's giving a grounding, stable something in the stomach. Vata really likes to have something there, something in the stomach on the go. So the simple rule in Ayurveda in that instance is to eat warm, wet, and slightly oily foods, not greasy, slightly oily. So for example, a vegetable stew with some olive oil. You can put some olive oil on top and bring some warming spices like cumin, which is very good for helping digestion, and it's an anti-gas herb, which is something that Vata can. Because of their airy nature, they can really suffer with that. So that's a rule of thumb there, to think of things like squashes, carrots, beets, wheat, grounding, healthy, nice natural foods.
And for this time of year, all of the root vegetables and the stone fruits and the squashes, everything that's being harvested right now, this is a wonderful, wonderful time for people with the Vata constitution to be bringing in all of this wonderful, fresh food to support their bodies.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful gift from nature because this time of year, as we transition into autumn, into fall, is Vata season.
Mm-hmm.
So as Ayurveda teaches that like increases like, when it's a Vata season, it increases our Vata, the Vata in our constitution. So nature's gift is the squashes, carrots, beets, so many different types of pumpkins. You can make soup and eat it with really nice, wholesome bread. Just real comfort foods.
One of my favorites is to use like a Hubbard squash, or you could probably use just about any kind acorn squash, and make it with a little bit of curry. And it's just a lovely combination.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to want to make some.
Yeah, so have a look around at seasonal recipes, and if you're a Vata type, use your wonderful creativity to get creative in the kitchen and think about things that are really going to nourish you.
Warm, milky drinks are also really good this time of year and excellent for Vata. So choose your almond milk, or I've just found some macadamia milk that I really like. Yeah, it's quite yummy. And then add a little cinnamon, add a little nutmeg. This is a wonderful drink to have before bedtime. But it's just so tasty and so easy to do. And along with the cinnamon and nutmeg, there are several other warming spices that you can consider as well, like ginger and black pepper. And of course, we've already mentioned cumin.
Yeah, bring those into your cooking. Smoky paprika, warming spices. Spices are medicine as well as taste good. They help us digest, and they have so many wonderful properties that we can benefit from. So a traditional Ayurvedic way to cook is to bring the spices to a little oil in a pan and let them sizzle up, and then drizzle the spiced oil into whatever you're cooking, if it's dal or soup, vegetable stew. Just experiment with that way of cooking, which releases all the healing volatile oils from the spices into the cooking oil and then into the food. So you get the very, very best. And if you can grind your spices fresh, then even more benefit, particularly with cumin. So wonderful to buy whole cumin seeds, and you can zip them up in a blender, a NutriBullet or whatever you've got. Just grind those spices up, and you smell that incredible aroma from cumin, and you can smell the oils in there. Such a wonderful healing spice.
I'm so hungry.
Because it's nearly noon where you are and your pit is speaking. Yeah.
My pit is speaking, and I've been intermittent fasting, and we're talking about all these yummy foods, and I'm like, okay, gotta go get some food. I promise not to get hangry.
Yeah, well, you never do.
And then, of course, there are the foods that and drink that to stay away from if you're Vata. As much as you possibly can, avoid stimulants, avoid coffee and energy drinks, and soft drinks that have caffeine. Avoid cold, dry foods. Avoid refined sugar. I invite everyone to avoid refined sugar whenever possible. And then, of course, we want you to be wary of drinking alcohol and avoiding the cold and carbonated soft drinks, as I mentioned earlier, whether they have caffeine or not. Best to stick to teas and milky drinks and spring water, and just really be thoughtful about what you're taking in.
Yeah. And I think that list can sound a little bit random if you don't look at the principles behind it. And so when you're talking about cold, carbonated drinks, the drink has air in it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to balance out that airy nature. So we want like oat milk, almond milk, like lubricating, nourishing milks rather than airy drinks, or just straight up spring water's fine, but Vata doesn't need more air. So that's the thing with carbonated drinks. And cold increases Vata too. So Dr. Ladd, one of my favorite Ayurvedic teachers, says ice is not nice. It really challenges our digestion.
Yeah, I've always been a person who doesn't really need ice in my drinks. I mean, unless it's super warm and I need to chill things up. And I think growing up, even my mom would say, no ice or just a little bit of ice. Maybe she knew. But yeah, ice isn't our friend.
Yeah, it's quite shocking to the digestive system. And it's as much as in the West we've become very used to it in drinks, it's not helpful for our digestion or for anxiety because it's just too cold.
And the other thing to bring forward is that it's really important that you have regular meals to keep your blood sugar steady, especially when you're the Vata type.
Yeah.
And you don't have to eat a lot. It doesn't have to be a big deal, but to be somewhat thoughtful about it, to keep your blood sugar steady, you're going to be so much happier.
Yeah, if you might need to keep some nuts or dates. As a general rule, dried fruit, because of the dry nature, is not recommended, but dates are a nice exception. Handful of nuts, something grounding and nourishing is a good thing to keep by. And then there's this thing where Vata's it's so easy for them to skip breakfast. They may feel nausea in the morning. When I was young and really suffering with high anxiety, I felt sick every single morning when I got up. It was really challenging. So there's a few tips from Ayurveda to help us take something in the morning. One is to start your day with warm water with a little lemon juice and some ginger. In the colder seasons, you can add some fresh ginger and some raw honey, which you add after your drink's cooled down a little bit, so you're not damaging the properties of the honey. So lemon is cleansing. It cleanses toxins from the body. It gets our digestive system ready to receive foods. Ginger is anti-nauseant, and it's anti-cramping and all those unpleasant, anxious digestive symptoms we can experience. And honey just brings that little bit of nourishment and sweetness in there first thing in the morning and makes it a little bit more palatable.
And I would also recommend a pinch of Himalayan salt, because that's something that starts to get the nutrients that come in a good salt are really, really good for your body. And it's something I've been doing for a long time. And I think that Dr. Carolyn Dean is, I think that she's the one who reminded me to make sure it's not a lot, it's just a little bit to get those minerals in your body.
Yeah.
Is that, I'm bringing that forward because it's something that I do. Is that going to cause any issue or problem with Vata?
No, I don't think so. I think Vata can benefit from a little salt. So that's a good drink to start your day with, just to sip when you get up in the morning. And then it helps you receive some breakfast. An ideal breakfast for Vata, especially coming into the autumn season, would be a nice, warm, nourishing breakfast like oatmeal made with almond milk. And you can put some honey there, some cinnamon. Cinnamon has this wonderful property of stabilizing our blood sugar so we don't get that kind of 10, 11 a.m. spike. So that's a really good breakfast. If that feels too much, consider making it quite wet and a smaller quantity and just seeing if you can tempt yourself with a small quantity. And if that feels too much, then a good alternative and something that's really recommended in autumn is to stew an apple. Get a cooking apple and peel it, cut it up, stew it in a little bit of water with a fair pinch of cinnamon, and that's really easy to eat.
And so yummy.
So yummy, and that's Ayurveda's autumn and winter vitamin C recipe. Really, really good for our immunity. Smells so good, so uplifting, easy to digest, easy to get down if you're feeling nauseous, which I can relate to because I remember it very well. So that's, or Vata can also take some whole wheat toast, but put something wet on it or moist on it. And don't just have dry, crunchy toast. Vata needs a little bit of density and not too dry. And if you do go for the baked apple, mid-morning you may find that you're going to be hungry again because you're going to digest that really quickly. So then be prepared to have something with you, a snack that you can keep with you just to top that up with something to get you through to lunchtime.
Well, now I'm sufficiently hungry. And you've just helped me figure out what's going to happen for dinner. There's going to be some apples involved with dinner tonight. apples are very plentiful this time of year in northern Michigan, and so
Yeah.
it's time to start making those sauces and stews out of apples.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so easy, and even this morning routine, you can peel 3 or 4 apples and cut them up and do this, and then store them for a couple of days. And
Hmm.
so it's real easy to just warm up and they're good to go. And so very satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I should note there that I already said not apples because they float, but stewed apple doesn't float. When you cook the apples, you're making them easier to digest, and when you're adding in the spices, and you can add in a little oil if you want to, a touch of a nice healthy oil in there. Really important for butter to be lubricated, oleated inside and out. Oil is butter's friend, so you can bring a little something in there. And then it changes the property of the apple. You're cooking it, it's warm, it's easily assimilated, it loses its light, airy nature. And another clue from the season that, as you said, Shan, apples are abundant at this time of year. So this is nature's gift to us.
It sure is. And when I make my sauteed apples or stewed apples, I also like to add like a tablespoon of either orange juice or lemon juice, if you have either one, and it really lifts the property of the flavor. It's really nice with the cinnamon, and if you're feeling really decadent, you can put a little ghee in there too.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that would be the good oil that comes in, definitely. Yeah.
I'm glad we came together to answer this question today. It has not only given me some good reminders, but also is inviting me to hop off the call and off the podcast and go get something in my belly. Thank you to our listeners. That we are so appreciate you sending in your questions and being able to discuss and hopefully help as many as possible who are listening in right now. If you love our podcast, we invite you to become a patron for loads of Anxiety Slayer extras. Check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Anxiety Slayer.